You're lying in bed at 3:17 a.m. The house is still, but your thoughts are not. You feel something strange, a pulse. Not in your chest, but in the air. It's subtle at first. A soft vibration, not sound, not quite sensation, but something your body recognizes before your mind can name it. It hums through the room like an invisible thread pulling reality taut. You sit up. You feel more awake than you ever have, but you haven't moved a muscle. Somewhere deep in your bones, a question begins to rise. What if this isn't just your imagination? What if there's a hidden signal, an ancient, forgotten frequency that can alter your mind, your perception, your very reality? Not metaphorically, not spiritually, but physically, biologically. What if reality isn't solid, but symphonic? What if your thoughts, emotions, memories, even your identity are held together by vibrations so precise, so delicate, that the right frequency could unravel or rewrite them? It sounds impossible, like science fiction. And yet, in laboratories across the world, scientists are now beginning to uncover what mystics have hinted at for centuries, that beneath the surface of all matter is a symphony of frequencies. That consciousness may not just perceive reality, but resonate with it. You were never taught this in school. You were told the brain creates consciousness, that the world is made of dead matter. That sound is just waves in the air. But what if they were wrong? What if the right frequency doesn't just change your mood, but your mind, your memories, your meaning? What if you could tune your awareness like a radio and pick up a version of reality no one else can hear? Would you still trust your senses? Would you still believe in one fixed, objective world? Or would you begin to wonder, how many versions of reality have I missed simply because I wasn't tuned in? And if this frequency is real, who discovered it? What can it do? And why has no one told you about it until now? The problem isn't just that most people are unaware of this frequency, it's that we've been conditioned, psychologically, culturally, philosophically, to ignore the very possibility that such a thing could exist. Since childhood, you've been taught to believe in a narrow bandwidth of reality. 5 senses. One world. One truth. Anything that falls outside that spectrum, dismissed as fantasy, hallucination, or worse, delusion. But what if the real delusion is the assumption that what you perceive is all that exists? Carl Jung once warned that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Because facing the soul, our inner frequencies, is terrifying. It's easier to live inside the mind's carefully structured echo chamber than risk confronting the raw, vibrating chaos of unfiltered reality. You see, Western rationalism has severed us from the idea that consciousness and the universe might be fundamentally intertwined. René Descartes drew a line between the mind and the body, between subject and object, birthing a worldview where the observer stands outside the observed. But in quantum physics, this division collapses. The observer changes the outcome. Reality is no longer fixed. It responds, it listens, it resonates. Now, here's where it gets disturbing. If reality is not solid, but frequency-based, then the boundaries of who you are not fixed either. Your thoughts, electrical signals, your emotions, hormonal vibrations, your memories, encoded waveforms in a neurological lattice. And what controls all of this? Vibration, oscillation, frequency. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "There are no facts, only interpretations." But what if interpretations themselves are vibrational phenomena? What if your entire worldview is shaped not by truth, but by the frequency your mind is tuned to? In this light, much of modern life begins to look like a kind of spiritual sedation. We're constantly bathed in artificial frequencies, digital screens, electromagnetic smog, noise pollution, without ever questioning how these invisible signals might be shaping us. Your anxiety, your fatigue, your sense of numb disconnection. Could it be that you're resonating with a frequency that isn't yours? Aldous Huxley warned in Brave New World that the ultimate form of control isn't tyranny, but distraction. Keep the mind entertained. Keep the soul dulled. And no one will ever question the prison they live in. If there truly is a frequency that can alter human perception, then we must ask, what frequencies are we currently immersed in? And more importantly, who controls them? The deeper problem is this: we have lost our natural resonance. Our ancestors lived in tune with the rhythms of the earth, the Schumann resonance, the cycles of the moon, the music of birdsong and wind. Today, we wake up to alarm clocks, scroll through notifications, and fall asleep under artificial light. We're out of sync, not just with nature, but with ourselves. Jean-Paul Sartre believed that man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. But how can you make yourself if the very frequencies shaping your thoughts are not your own? Herein lies the psychological trap. You believe your thoughts are yours, but thoughts arise from a field. And if that field is distorted, then so are you? This is the hidden architecture of human experience, a lattice of frequencies subtly dictating your perceptions, your choices, your identity. And while scientists are only just beginning to measure it, mystics, shamans, and sages have whispered about it for millennia, that to awaken to truly see, one must learn to hear, not with the ears, but with the soul. So ask yourself, are you living your life, or are you simply echoing a frequency that was never meant for you? And if that's true, what happens when you finally shift the signal? You don't notice it at first. That's the sinister brilliance of it. You wake up one day and you're just a little more tired than usual. You scroll through your phone and things feel dull. The faces, the words, the thoughts. You can't name what's wrong because nothing specific is. And so you continue. You shower, you eat, you go to work. But beneath it all, there's a strange numbness, like something inside you has gone slightly out of tune. Over time, the detuning becomes a way of life. And this is how the unseen frequency prison is built, not with chains or fences, but with tiny shifts in perception. You no longer see beauty the same way. The world doesn't glow anymore. Moments that once pierced your heart now pass like static. You may think this is aging or stress, or the demands of adulthood. But what if it's something else entirely? What if your internal frequency has been hijacked? In neuroscience, we know that brain waves govern everything from sleep to focus to emotion. Delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma. These are the rhythms of consciousness itself. But what happens when external frequencies, man-made electromagnetics, fields, subconscious advertising pulses, even certain sound frequencies, begin to subtly override your own natural rhythms? Studies have shown that the human brain is entrainable. Play a certain beat, and brainwaves begin to mimic it. Introduce a frequency long enough, and the brain begins to adopt it as its own baseline. Now consider, what are you listening to every single day without knowing it? What frequencies hum through your walls, your screens, your cities? And more importantly, what are they doing to you? The unseen consequence is a gradual disconnection from the self. Not a dramatic collapse, but a quiet erosion. You don't suddenly lose your purpose, you just stop feeling it. You don't suddenly forget your dreams, they simply fade until they feel childish. You don't suddenly choose a life you hate, you drift into it like sleepwalking through fog. This is what philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer meant when he said, "The greatest of follies is to sacrifice health for any other kind of happiness." But what if the health he spoke of isn't just physical, but vibrational? The health of your frequency, your resonance, your being. Even culture itself plays into this frequency trap. Listen to the cadence of social media. Notice the frenetic pulse of entertainment. Look at how modern music is tuned, literally, to a pitch, 440 Hz, that some researchers claim is disharmonic to natural human biology. Coincidence? Or a long-forgotten shift in human consciousness? Now ask yourself, have you ever entered a forest and felt peace rise in your body like an ancient memory? Have you ever sat in silence and felt your heart begin to beat in a different rhythm, one that felt true? That's not imagination. That's resonance. That's your body remembering what real alignment feels like. And once you've felt it, you begin to realize how far you've drifted. Not just from nature, but from your own center. The real danger isn't that these frequencies manipulate you. It's that you don't even know they're there. And so you never question what version of yourself you've become. Because when frequency shapes perception, then whoever controls the frequency controls reality. And now that this secret is being uncovered, what will you do with that knowledge? Because the power to retune yourself is not just theoretical, it's real. And those who understand it can reclaim something most people have forgotten: sovereignty over their own mind. It starts with silence. Not metaphorical silence, but true silence, where no artificial frequency penetrates, no phones, no screens, no background hum of machines, just you, your breath, and the earth beneath your feet. It will feel uncomfortable at first, because silence is where the real signal begins to emerge, and for most of your life, you've been tuned away from it. But this is the rebellion. To remember that you are not merely a receiver of frequencies, you are a generator. This changes everything. The moment you reclaim your power to tune yourself, to deliberately shift your internal state using sound, breath, rhythm, or intention, you begin to break the invisible chains. Ancient traditions knew this well. Shamans used drumming to enter altered states of consciousness. Hindu mystics chanted mantras that resonated with specific chakras, aligning the body's energetic fields. Sufi dervishes spun in ecstatic dance, creating inner vortexes of vibrational clarity. Even early Christians sang in modes like Gregorian chants that carried profound meditative power. These were not superstitions, they were technologies of the soul, because before we had machines, we had resonance. Modern science is finally catching up. Studies on binaural beats, solfeggio frequencies, and brainwave entrainment show that exposure to certain tones can reduce anxiety, boost cognitive function, even induce trance states. But here's the twist. You don't need a lab or a device to access this. You already are the instrument. Your breath is a metronome. Your voice is a tuning fork. Your intention is the amplifier. So how do you begin? Slowly, intentionally, consistently. Try this. Wake up tomorrow and listen, not to your phone, but to the birds outside your window. Let their natural frequencies enter your nervous system. Then breathe deeply. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Do this while listening to a frequency below 10 Hz, one that aligns with theta waves, the state of deep meditation. Notice how your thoughts shift. Notice how time feels different. That is not placebo. That is recalibration. The rebellion isn't loud, doesn't scream, it hums, it sings, it vibrates through your cells until you remember what it feels like to be fully alive. History is filled with rebels who understood this. Nikola Tesla believed that if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Mystics from Rumi to Thich Nhat Hanh spoke in metaphors that pointed to resonance. Even warriors like Miyamoto Musashi wrote about rhythm as the key to victory, not just in battle, but in life. To break free, you must first notice the cage. The cage isn't always metal. Sometimes it's a dissonant hum buried beneath your awareness. But once you hear it, truly hear it, you can choose a new frequency, one that vibrates with clarity, courage, and truth. Because the real rebellion isn't against the system, it's against the illusion that you were ever powerless. And once you remember that, the tuning begins. You were never just flesh, never just thought. You were always a vibration in search of harmony. The ultimate truth isn't that a single frequency can alter human reality. It's that human reality is frequency. Your body is a waveform in motion. Your thoughts, pulses of electricity. Your soul, a resonance waiting to remember its original pitch. This isn't mysticism. It's physics wrapped in poetry. We've spent generations seeking the truth out there through microscopes, telescopes, and doctrines. But the secret was humming in our cells all along. A song we forgot. A tone buried under layers of noise. Every time your heart beats in sync with someone else's, every time a song gives you goosebumps, every time silence makes you weep for reasons you can't explain. That is the ancient frequency calling you home. And here's the paradox that changes everything. You do not find the frequency. You become it. You don't access a higher reality by chasing knowledge or accumulating tools. You shift into it by attuning your entire being, mind, body, soul, into coherence. The sages didn't say enlightenment is attained. They said it's remembered, because your essence was always resonant. It was the distortion that made you forget. The modern world taught you that you were isolated, separate from nature, separate from others, even separate from your own purpose. But the truth is, separation is the illusion. We are all threads of one great vibrational field, one song sung through countless instruments. And now you are being called, urgently, deeply, undeniably, to retune. Not just for yourself, but for the world that is aching under the weight of its own dissonance. When you realign, you become a tuning fork. Others feel your frequency. They begin to remember their own. And without a word, the entire world starts to shift. Reality bends not through force, but through frequency. And the strongest frequency is not fear, not control, but coherence. This is not just your liberation. This is your responsibility. So ask yourself, what would it look like to live every moment as a frequency of truth? And if you truly embodied that resonance, what new reality would begin to unfold? Because the signal is already inside you. It always has been. The only question now is, will you remember the sound of your soul before the world forgets its song completely?